Hello. Thought I would share what I'm working on today. It's January 1st, 2021. The long-awaited 2021 has started. We'll see if that's still something we're really excited about in a few months. But I like to send winter greetings, be they Christmas cards or just a winter card in December. And I usually don't have enough, and it takes quite a bit to make all of them. And so every year I learn a little bit about what would make it easier for me. And I really enjoy being able to connect with friends and send them just a little greeting, especially being able to send a handmade greeting. But it's a lot to do all of the work in December, both assembling the cards, but even when I have them done in advance, just writing the notes and addressing them, that's quite a bit of work. And so one of the things I've told myself several years is I'm going to start them early. I also thought I might throw in some of these Love from Lizzie peel-off stickers. I used the Winter Magic pad of paper completely up, but there's still more to do on my cards. So my process, which I may change, is a little different. I like to go through and cut up my paper and glue it down. And then later, once I have a whole stack where the card base and the pattern paper is done, I will go through and add, images of some sort. So like these two sets of cards would likely go with it. I may even use some of these, but I want to use up this Love from Lizzie set first. I want to make up that paper pad before I use any of those. But I think any of these could be really cute. And so I'm just going to show you what I have, which, like I said, it's not finished. And so for some people, this way of doing cards will be kind of different. For some of you, it might help solve the problem and of how you're doing things. And for others, it might kind of annoy you. So part of why I pick one thing and instead of doing the whole entire card is, for me, that's more relaxing to not have all of my supplies need to be out and really thinking through each individual card. It kind of makes it a little bit more repetitive and kind of soothing for me. So if I am, cutting and gluing paper in this sense, and then maybe later I'm stamping images or coloring images, and it allows me to have fewer supplies out on my desk at one time. And also just kind of, I think for me, it's a little more soothing to not be changing what I'm doing so often. So the first thing I did, well, these aren't really in order of how I made them, but I'll show you. Actually, I want to show you what I did in order. So one of the first ones I did, I found this sketch, and I loosely followed it, and I apologize, I don't know the name of the sketch, but it showed a circle and then a rectangle here. And so I had this circle die by MFT that makes 2 layers. And so I just went through the entire Winter Magic pad and I cut out a whole bunch of them, and then I flipped over the other side and I mix and match. This isn't necessarily the back of that. I just mix and match a whole bunch between them, and then I selected different papers that I thought would be fun behind it, and most, if not all, I think it's actually all of them, have a Love from Lizzie peel-off as well, adding kind of a sparkly layer. So I like this. I love this. It's white, but then I use that teal. And so they're all a little different. I did have some sparkly, kind of glittery paper in my stash that was not part of this kit, but that paper pad, but I thought it went really well. And so these are not done. At the very least, I will add a sentiment. So you could see like if it had that sentiment. I may even, for some of them, they're pretty bold, and the pattern paper is beautiful on its own. But I could, if there was one that was more simple, I could add like this big deer could go on this one, for example. I did select these papers though, based on, I picked out the kind of the bold patterns that I thought I really wanted to highlight a big piece of them. And that's actually how I chose what I would make with these. So that's that first set. And again, obviously they're not done. But you can see it would be easy to come grab this stack and like in an evening finish it up with adding sentiments and maybe some little dots and or gems of some sort. And so it just, for me, now I don't have to worry about pulling the paper pad out again, because it's pretty time consuming even just cutting up the paper pad. But I could grab this little stack and, you know, maybe the sentiments or something and just sit here and do that. And so it's a little different of a way of doing things, but that's how I work well. So that was the first one. Then I actually cut them down, the papers that had this part, because it's 6 inches, and so obviously this left me with a strip if I cut it down. And so when I cut those strips off though, I noticed that I had these kind of nice papers with this oval cut out. And I decided to go ahead and just glue all of them down. You'll notice most of them have that hole from where the pad of paper had a hole. But, you know, you could throw a snowflake die, or like on this set, there's a little tree, or you know, little fox or something. That might look kind of weird way up there, but there are, you know, definitely a snowflake die or something would cover that easily. And so I chose to go ahead and use it, and I will probably put something inside of this circle. And this is actually one that I think would be really fun to do some of these big colored images. You know, stick that polar bear inside your big oval. Sorry, I called it a circle a minute ago, but inside your big oval. Put a snowflake up there and maybe a sentiment, and I think these would look really cool. So that's not a sketch, that was just my own idea. Then I went through, and these are the papers with not as bold or something, and that were left. And so again, they're pretty similar in size. So I cut them down so that there'd be the 4 inches and left 2-inch squares or rectangles. And then I decided just to add them on a piece of cardstock, and I just rounded the corners. Some of them I did add this, you know, some sort of mounted paper, and a few actually had this little hole again where you'd need to add a snowflake or something. Most of them didn't, but I had a few that were like that. Look how beautiful this is, right? And this obviously you're going to need to do a little bit more to it because it's really simple. But again, you could grab this stack and do this in one evening. And you're not cutting up your pattern paper. You've already got your pattern paper on it. But you know, maybe you just add a stamped deer and then a strip with a sentiment or something. Then the next group that I did, it kind of was inspired by a sketch, but it's not really following a sketch. And so I had all these 2-inch strips left from when I cut those down to 4. And so I just played with what could I use with the 2-inch strips. So I did a bunch of them where I tried doing a strip across here, and then I was like, well, what if we add a box or square behind it? And so a bunch of them ended up with something similar like that. This one, I think because my strip was sideways, I just played with how would that look. This one might have been the one I did before I added the box or the square. And so I just did a rectangle, and I ultimately decided maybe it needed more. This one's kind of fun. It has a strip on both sides there. I did that too here. Again, this was one I was playing with. I think I decided to do this because I really liked the white with this, and I wanted to highlight this Love from Lizzie Pilaf. And you can see I played with it a little bit of, this one was the original size, and I was like, well, what if I make it bigger? And so sometimes I just like to experiment. These also played with very similar kind of ideas, somewhat based on what papers I had. And actually, we'll come back to those. So I had that set. Then again, I had all these 2-inch strips. What do you do with all those? And so I just started cutting them down and pairing them together with one I thought they looked cute with. This will probably have a strip with a sentiment and maybe something in here. But I just did a whole, and then obviously I had a few that were not the right size, but this I just did a bunch with. These were pretty tiny. I think these were some of my last scraps. I mounted them just to give them a little bit more. Same with this. Sometimes mounting it made it work a little better when I was getting to the point where the colors didn't quite work as well. And so this was the majority of them. I just went through and cut most of my strips down and paired them together and did a whole bunch of strips just kind of angled next to each other. Obviously these aren't done. They'll look better when they have a strip here and something. And this is actually very similar to what I did for my Christmas cards. A couple of years ago I did it's a snowman that I did that went right here. And then I had a strip right here. And then just a green and red paper. So similar idea. And then these, somehow I ended up left with just 2 of these, and they didn't have a coordinating paper. And so I was like, well, what if I just use white and just mount them both? And then I did have some of these scraps left. And also I went through, and some of them, not all of them, but some of them I did have some scraps that I put on the inside. Well, I'm not seeing any to show you. Oh, there's one. So just a few, and that one even had that little cutout. So I'll put a snowflake on the inside too. And so as you can see, they have more work to do, but I did use up the entire 6x6 Winter Magic paper pad. And I have something like over 60 cards that are ready to just have images colored, or I might be able to add like some of these ephemera pieces, sentiments, and then some further embellishment, and they can be done pretty easily. So probably my next step will be to sit and stamp a whole bunch of images to color, and then I usually don't do them for a specific card. I just stamp a whole bunch, and then I do match them up though. Like if I was doing this deer and it was this card, once I stamped it, I will match it up to make sure the colors work. So, the deer's probably not going to be a color that goes in the blues, but it has a scarf on, so maybe its scarf is blue. And or like this little penguin could even be cute, the little penguins on there. Yeah, so I do like to match when I start coloring to coordinate with my cards, and that's part of where it's nice to already know what you're doing for the pattern paper and then just add that. So little different process. I hope that you enjoyed this. I would say these are about halfway done, and I have about half the cards I need, so that's maybe about a quarter of the way done with my Christmas cards, which is crazy because I have far more paper pads than, like this is only one paper pad, and I definitely have more than another one that I plan to use, but I'm excited about that. I started this video on January 1st. We're now into February. It took me that long to get my video wrapped up, but I'm excited, and so stay tuned. I will do another video where I show you how I finish these off, and I will also keep you posted on what I do for the rest of my Christmas cards. If you have something in particular you would like to see, or you have thoughts on the format, because I am playing with it and I know that it's a little different, I'm happy to take your feedback. Otherwise, have a great day, everyone.